So if you look at like advertising, for example, and I'm huge on advertising, and I disagree with a lot of the critiques around advertising. But in advertising, it's okay to mislead, and that's not bad from a moral perspective. And we can have that conversation another time because maybe it'll take a while. But in advertising, don't lie, don't be dishonest. But you're in the business of misleading. You're in the because otherwise your ads would be so dry that no one would want to watch them. So if you're advertising a kind of beer, you're a beer brand. You're advertising a kind of beer, and you're doing something. I have no idea how you make beer, but you're doing something, a certain process. Let's call it X. And in your commercial, because no one else is doing it, you're going to stress that you're doing X constantly in all of your advertising. So in your traditional advertising, in your online advertising, you're constantly talking about how you are doing X. As a scientist, that is not dishonest because you're not lying because you're doing X, but it is misleading because what you're leaving out is that everyone else does X too. But no one is talking about it. So by virtue of you stressing it, by virtue of you emphasizing, hey, we are a beer brand and we're doing X, people start associating you with that. And maybe that brings things like a higher quality, etc., and all of these different perceptions, which is what you want. So now you're creating what I call psychological economic value. You're creating value through messing with the frame and messing with perception. And that is something that we do all the time. So when you have the old saying, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? That's messing with perception because the glass has a certain amount of liquid in it in relation to how big the container the liquid is in. So how you frame it already influences people. But you need to do that because human beings aren't computers. They can gather all of the inputs because you're limited to how much input you can get. And then there's a secondary filter where you're filtering the input that comes in via your eyes and ears or whatever in the first place. So you always need to steer. And that's what you're doing when it comes to advertising.